Hi, everyone. I am Joanne Crossman from the College of Education and Social Services. And the course that I've been teaching hybrid this semester is Choosing Wellness.
All right, great.
Hello, my name is Marcel Lavanolsen, and this semester I am teaching Spanish 111, and it's a hybrid. It's for different reasons, and the first reason is because we want the students to be unmasked, so when they speak. So Tuesdays we do face-to-face, and Thursdays we do Zoom, which is all the fun because they can get up close and personal. Otherwise, we had to be careful. We had to be very careful with doing that.
So. All right, great. Thanks. All right, Leon.
So the class that I have is Intro to Sports Business, but it's not officially hybrid yet. It can be offered in the fall as hybrid, so I'm in the process of developing. And we've actually done a lot of the work already between myself and Dr. Williams.
Okay. Who else was on the panel? I know, Brandy, you were on the panel, right? And Valerie? Okay. Do you want to go first, Brandy?
Yeah, sure. My name is Brandy Policita, and I am also in the College of Education and Social Services, and I am teaching Choosing Wellness, SLU 125.
All right, perfect. And then Valerie.
Hi, I'm Valerie Casper, and I have two hybrids this semester. I have the 110, the English 110, which is the class they take before they start the two composition classes. And then I also have an upper level English 450, which is a layout and design class.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Valerie. And then Pam.
Hi, I'm Pam, Instructor of Humanities, College of Arts and Sciences. I'm teaching Curves Ahead, which is also one that I've just recently done a rise for. So it's like, it came in handy, actually, right? Trying to do the hybrid and do the rise at the same time so I could steal some things from both. And then I'm also doing Giants hybrid.
All right, thanks. Thanks for sharing. All right, so what we're going to do is we'll start out with the first question, and it's really about getting off to a great start. All of us, especially when you're teaching in a new type of environment, you want to get off to a great start. So what strategies, tools, or approaches did you use to make sure your students had a clear understanding of the organizational structure of your course right from the beginning? So whoever wants to speak up.
I'll start. One of the simple things I did in the beginning was I have a weekly course schedule. So one of the tabs is a weekly course schedule. And then I use the checklist so that each day can be a separate box. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then I made blocks that have one, and then they're colored. So like one's red, two's blue, three's green. So it'll say one, and then it'll have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, then two, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, so they can differentiate the weeks and the modules. But then Monday, we'll say across it, Monday, March, whatever, but then it'll say F2F or face-to-face. And then on Wednesday, it was saying Zoom. And then on Friday, it has the date and it says asynchronous to also remind them of what we're doing each day and where they need to be.
Great, that's a great strategy. Thanks for sharing, Valerie.
May I continue?
Oh, yes, yeah. And actually, I wanted to let the panelists know too, if you want to share your screen, if there's something that you want to show the other faculty, please feel free. I gave everybody rights to share their screen. And so you can actually just jump in, pull up your stuff and be able to show that way as well. So go ahead, Marcela.
Okay, for Spanish, we cover, it's a book that for 4 semesters. So each semester we cover 4 lessons. So originally, when we started in 2020, fall 2020, when I changed the book, I organized the shell into 4 units that they correspond with the lesson. So each lesson had a module. Then, and it had all the materials, and each chapter is divided into vocabulary, grammar, reading, culture, and some kind of videos. So that it's sort of a soap opera. I had it per unit. And that's something I heard from many of our colleagues, that they had ordered, they had their shells developed according to the textbook or to the order of the readings or the progression of the course. So when we had to develop for the 16-week hybrid format, that we had to develop 16 modules, the strategy I followed was, I said, okay, we know that one module is going to be spring break, the other one is going to be final, so it's 14 modules with content. And what I did was to divide those units, the 4 lessons, into meaningful subunits. In that way, each module will be articulated with the following without losing the identity or without being sort of disjoint. Because they are still part of one unit, and the units are thematic. So that was another challenge. So I had to be very careful in how I divided the lesson into at least 3-4 modules each, because that's what it takes us to cover each lesson 4 weeks. So I say, okay, fine, I'll divide the grammar and vocabulary. So each module has its own identity, yet it's part of a bigger whole that is the unit. And in doing so, one of the things I took into account was when doing the syllabus, of course, each module match what I have in the syllabus. The good thing is that the lessons are divided, so by topics. So the topics correspond in modules and the syllabus has schedule, and they know what day we cover what, Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday, and what day we do face-to-face and what day we do Zoom. So I had, since the pandemic started, I had added a column for the modality. That helped a lot to, to organize, when breaking down the big lesson, making sure that I didn't alter, the identity of the topics, and that they still were articulated and show the big, the big picture of the theme of the unit.
Okay, great. And how did you structure your content area in your course? Was it by topic or?
Yes, by topic. And I, if you like, I can share and show you how, like I can show you like the first module and, for instance, the fourth module, and I have them. So
we did have a question from somebody, from Angela, in regards to, my chat area went away, hold on. In regards to whether you're facilitating this on ground or online or both.
I do Tuesdays face-to-face, Thursdays Zoom.
Okay.
That's how so this is like the first module, and I try to put something like, yes, you can, something motivational in each visual I use, because learning a language can be really overwhelming. So although people don't think like that until they sit down in a class and they, oops, hold on a second, let me go back. They don't, think in that way until they see what it takes to learn a language. So try to guide them as much as you can. So in the first module, it's welcome to Spanish 111. Yes, you can. An introduction of what we will be doing, the topics, learning objectives, what's next, and reminders. So I always start like that. This is like the very standardized format I follow in each of the models. So the students know what to do and where they are going. Then for the first module, we had the introduce yourselves, and I can show you here what I did. So it was introduce yourselves and let's get social. And I gave them 2 Padlets, one that they had to say where they were from. I used the map. And the other one, they had to say very little, the very little they learned, the very little they had to use. Now, this is phase 1 of this Padlet. Phase 2 is coming in a week or so, where they actually had to write the biography. So in this way, they see the progress, throughout the semester. So then After we got social, then in the first module, I had strategies for successful language learners. So again, try to use a picture that, okay, can I climb that? Yes, you can. Just it's a matter of being mindful and, having a plan. So here they have the tips and things based on research. And then they had to do an activity, a follow-up activity that they had to write the characteristics, what they thought they were characteristics, learning strategies, and what's your plan. So, okay, so you know what it takes, what learning strategies are you going to use, and how do you plan to do it? So that's the first module. Then for the fourth module, that, hold on a second, here. So see, this is module 4, but we are still working on lesson 1. So there are lessons when you were asking me, Greg, about the contents. So a module has the first half of the grammar, another module has a vocabulary, another module has the second half of the grammar, and then we have a module for culture. And so this one is a model for culture. And this is a comic that is iconic in Spanish-speaking countries. So I got a free picture, didn't break any copyright laws, with the help of my good friends from CIDOL. And here, these are for the contents. So they have the introduction, what we've been doing in modules 1, 2, and 3. And sort of like, they keep track of what the progression of the course has been, and the topics, the learning objectives, and what's next, and the reminders, they have an exam. So basically that's how a regular module will be organized. And then they have the readings. So I have a module, no, a sub module or page with the readings, where I tell them what the readings are about, and some tips. So when they are reading, they know what they will find and what it means. And then the activities. So saludos, it was one of the big things in the content area for culture. So how do we greet each other is very different than the US. So I put some videos, I explain a little bit. And then another activity, Las Plazas, that was another part of the contents in the Cultura, the role of the plazas and what they mean for the culture. And then a brief notes about Kino and Mafalda, that this is the iconic comic strip that it's very famous in Latin America and Spain. So
this is great, Marcella.
Thank you. So that's basically how the content.
It's pretty. I like it because it's pretty. It's very visually.
It's
visually gorgeous and lush.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thanks. That's another thing I always try to do, to find images that they are relevant and that they are going to put the students in the frame of mind of, okay, this is what we are doing and why we are doing it. So.
Well, and that's why I like the structure of being consistent every time, like introduction, like your learning objectives, here's what you're doing next. Like you're being really upfront with them, and it's all in your course shell. So it's not necessarily you just standing up in front in class or in Zoom telling them. They can go back in and see that as they're going through your modules. So because one of the pieces, with the strategies is figuring out how you want to organize your course shell, and you did a great job of showing, here's how I organize my course shell.
Thank you. So stop sharing.
Okay. Anybody else want to share? Go ahead.
Before she stops. Thank you. That was great information. I just have this question. The reason I posted, first of all, thank you all for sharing your strategies up front in case I forget. But as an online professor, the shell comes built. I do a lot with my announcement board, but I want to know if it's okay to add more to the actual content. Like I see the pictures. I love pictures. If I could throw a song in a video, I'd even be better. But to engage the learners, the shell, like for now, I'm teaching Entrepreneurship 320. great class, comes with a lot of activities. I don't want to run the learners away by adding my personality into with pictures, but is it okay to add more pictures into a pre-built classroom, the online modality, or should we just leave it and I stay with using my announcements? Because I do a live discussion, not a chat, but a discussion every Wednesday. It's helping, but I would love to adopt some of these Padlets, and I'm hungry. I've been out on the sideline. I finally got back in the game. If it sounds like I'm taking over, I am. Forgive me. I love all of you, but I'm trying to grow here too. So that's me. Anybody want to tell me if it's okay to, my main question, is it okay to add two pictures to the actual modules as I go through each week?
So Karen Hahn, do you mind answering that question for the actual online courses? I'm not sure what the parameters are for exactly, you know, the actual online courses. Or if somebody else can answer that question.
I was hoping I could just chime in. My name is Danae, I teach sport business. Dr. Griffin, in my opinion, everything that you just discussed was all visual. If you want to add pictures, if you want to add some of your personality, that's not affecting the content of the course. That's not affecting the grading of the requirements. So if any, I mean, it seems silly that you wouldn't be in a position to just be able to do that. So I would think, why wouldn't you? I mean, that's what's going to engage the students. Adding a photo to share with your class, a video of yourself, that's what students want. That's what they want to see, in my opinion. I mean, my motto is ask for forgiveness rather than permission. And in my opinion, you're jazzing it up. You're engaging the students even more. In fact, I just took I'm taking notes as we do this, and I just took some of your ideas. So I'm going to do that too.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for chiming in. I've always thought, in my humble opinion, I've been riding this pony for, I guess, almost 15 years, but I started out on ground. I built my own shells. Now that I'm in online only, I find that I try and leave their shell like it is in case I hit the lottery and I don't show up, and somebody has to fulfill my role. But I use my announcement board to do all of what I'm seeing out here. And I just wanted to know, hey, do I have to go to the announcement? Because the biggest thing is getting the learners to click on every link.
Dr. Griffin,
your shell
Dr.
won't
Griffin,
change.
I think the way that you can do this is, and I know this is a problem in the created shells, which is something that I'm trying to deal with in the RISE process that I'm in for curves. I hate dead discussion boards. Despise them, didn't like them as a student, don't like them as a professor. So I at first did VoiceThread, and then we were no longer able to integrate VoiceThread. So now I am using Flipgrid. I don't know if you're familiar with Flipgrid, but that is going to allow you to put your personality in there, because I don't know. I was just trying to load mine up, Greg. I don't know if you can see students' names on here. So at least I can try to show maybe the hello I am, right? Because I've recorded one.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, that's me. So maybe I can give you this example. And I hate watching myself, so this is not super fun for me, but let me share my screen maybe.
Pamela, while you're getting that settled, if you're not adjusting your master course shell, then, and you're just putting these like on the home page or things like that, I mean,
it won't maintain. So the master is what gets copied over every semester. So one of the things you have to keep in mind when you add to your course shell, and it is my understanding that those kinds of things can be added. I've got pictures in mine. You just can't take material out, and you can't give them extra quizzes or something like that. But keep in mind that each semester you're going to get a blank shell again, and you're going to have to redo the whole thing. Now you'll have yours to go back to, you'll be able to pull up yours and then pull up the new semester, kind of copy and paste over. But every semester, your shell's going to show up as the master again. So just something to keep in mind.
I have a beautiful new Mac that I got for Christmas, and I have honestly, I don't know what has gone wrong. It's not letting me share. I'm getting some really weird messages about sharing my screen, but I will volunteer to Dr. Griffin, I'm happy to meet with you via Zoom, and hopefully I can figure out a way to share it, or I can share the link to my course so that you can actually look and see at all the Flipgrids that I've created. But I think that this is the way, literally the big thing that I think that we struggle with online, or if we're doing an asynchronous, is the feeling of the face-to-face, right? So if you're in an actual classroom, then students can turn around and talk to the person behind them. You can put them in groups of 2, groups of 4. And I think that that's what we're missing, right? And of course, in this kind of day and age, we're also missing that connection. That's really, really important. So I feel like there's also this ownership that comes with that whole, here's a face to what I'm saying. And again, I know that in the online world where they're supposed to reply to 2 peers, right? I am recently trying the whole, if you video, so you video, your initial post has to be a video, unless there's somebody who's in a combat zone that can't do the video, then of course they can text. But generally, I've even had people in combat, wherever they are overseas, also in a tent. You can tell that it's been scary because there have been sounds in the background that I'm I think you should probably not be doing a Flipgrid right now. But they can text. There's options for that, should that be a problem or somebody's camera is broken. But what I usually allow is, if you are responding via text, then 2. You have to, your initial has to be the Flipgrid with your face. Okay, then you can respond 2. If you video respond, you only have to do 1. So I really want to encourage that whole back and forth ownership. This is me saying this to you, and allowing their personalities to come out too, right? And I also try to encourage them, hey, respond to somebody that you haven't responded to before, right? Let's start a new conversation. Let's see how dynamic we can make this. Smacking personality on it is so important.
I agree.
It's important. Yeah. So I think that is a way that you can 100% insert yourself, not just in announcements, but actively on that discussion board. And the only trick to that is, again, just to point out that I know that that first week, students have to be active in that class. So I honestly just have them post in the discussion thread. When you have all those discussions set up that are just populated, I put the Flipgrid link in for each one of them, right? So they have it there, so they know, hey, Flipgrid, not discussion. And then the first one, I actually have them make sure that they're adding their link, because it generates a link for each one of theirs. So that way they're active in the class and they're not going to get booted from the course. That's a new thing. Again, I'm covering a lot of these things out of order. I'm sorry, Greg, but that's another thing that I didn't know was a problem. I don't want the students to get, I guess they have to be active in some way or they get dropped. Because I'm used to doing the on ground, right? I'm usually doing the on ground teaching. So, I had one of my students bring that to my attention, because I'm also teaching a spring too. And she's like, hey, I think we all need to make sure that we post so that, and I'm like, okay, we'll do that on the discussion thread. But after that, everything's out to Flipgrid. I will say it poses a little bit of a problem and a challenge for the administrators that are trying to go in there and look and see what you're doing. But again, they can click on those Flipgrid links and you can give them access. So there's that. And at first, I think I got a little hand slap, because they're like, well, you're not responding to every one of them. Well, in a group setting, in a classroom, you wouldn't be able to run to every group. So instead, I respond in the grade book with my comments to every single one every time. I'm just being honest with you. That's how I do it, so that they know that I know what they're doing on that Flipgrid, that I appreciate what they're doing. And again, if a Flipgrid goes a little wonky, I check in. Let's be honest, I check in. If Flipgrid starts to go a little sideways, I'm like, hey, here's another thought. You guys, a lot of you are commenting this. How about we think about this? I'll throw something out there, just like you would in a discussion board. But essentially, I try to stay off. That's their space to talk about their things and make those connections. And then academically, I do the grade book. Yes.
Okay, I'm calling you just so you know. I will be stalking you when this is
It's
over.
okay.
The reason I say this is because in teaching the entrepreneurship course, I put them in teams. I'm pleased to report I had 100% Zoom participation because I threatened them if they didn't show up to do their presentation, they were not going to get a good grade. I was going to call on Karen again and pester her, and now I understand why I needed to hear from you, because Flipgrid will give them a way to collaborate and then just kind of give me an overview. That way I don't get a student saying at the 9th hour, well, nobody called me, or I didn't know how to reach anybody and I want to do a different thing. Thank you so much. So I'm excited. Forgive me, y'all. I'm just excited. Pray for
Sorry,
me.
you can't see it. I clearly need to figure that out, why it won't allow me, but I'm happy to do any one-on-one with anybody here that's interested in it. I am a huge, I love Flipgrid. It's a game changer, I feel like, for integrating and for community and all those things, all those Benedictine values, right? Respect, everything, all of those things.
Well, and going
I'm
on
so
that
freaking
line,
excited. I'll be calling you. Thank you.
thanks. That's a great question, and thanks for sharing, Pam. I'm a big Flipgrid fan, so I was going to go straight to the Zoom synchronous session, but actually, I want to ask you all, what ways have you been doing if you haven't, do you have an asynchronous piece in your course? And if you do, what kind of elements do you add in for that asynchronous element? Because I know for me personally, in my class, I've used Flipgrid a few times for my asynchronous piece, which I think has really been a beneficial piece to mine. But I want to hear from some other instructors of what you do for that asynchronous piece.
I'd like to share something, if you please. For Flipgrid, I also use that for students to make their progress reports when they are working on collaborative projects. So generally, they will sit together and talk through their progress, what they've accomplished and what they've yet to do. And I know that, I think for Georgina, I think had asked a question in chat, what's the difference in asking the students to use discussion boards versus the Flipgrid? I think when the students articulate verbally what's going on, it feels more authentic to me. Because sometimes and frankly, some of the students are challenged with their writing. So I think hearing from them and I can sometimes discern in their voices if they're not quite sure and those kinds of things. But I did want to share something if you please. I've got a share screen for you here. I wanted to show you something I've done synchronously. So let me I've got
Joanne.
Yes.
Joanne, it's Georgina.
Hi, Georgina.
It's good to see you, Joanne. I haven't seen you in a while. But anyway, the question was, because I do oral discussions because I teach online 100%. But what my question was is we do videos on the discussion board. So the question was, what's the difference between the videos you can do on the discussion board versus using Flipgrid, which is, an outside thing for outside of the platform? That was the question, because you can also do videos on the discussion boards without writing anything. You just turn the video on and you're recording yourself.
Well, something, Georgina, I have oftentimes asked the students to just post the direct link to their Flipgrid in the discussion board if we're going to use a discussion board. Do you know what I mean? So they'll make it in Flipgrid, which, by the way, I practice in the first couple of days to make sure everyone is knowing how to do that. And then I ask them to post the direct link to their Flipgrid, and we go from there. Does that make any sense?
Georgina, I can say that previously the voice thread, I lost all the voice threads that you can save them. I lost them all when we stopped the subscription. So I have to say the reason I went to Flipgrid is just because it's a separate platform that I will never lose. I've created it. It's there. It stays mine. It will always be there.
No, but you don't lose them. Not on D2L. I can go back through all of my classes.
All right, but no, please go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was waiting to see if you were going to say something. The videos that I use on the discussion board are there. They never go away. They're inserted into the discussion box just as if they would do writing, like if they would write their discussion, it stays there forever. The same thing with the videos. When they do the oral presentations of the discussion question and they put it inside that discussion box, it doesn't go away. It stays there. I can go back and look at all the videos that I've done in previous semesters. So that's why I was asking, is there something better or something that's more, you know, that blends a bit more of a variety by using Flipgrid? Because I personally have never used Flipgrid because I find that using the videos on the discussion forum box is pretty simple and it's still a video. So you can still see them, they're still presenting, and then I actually have them respond to one another, which we had a little bit of a glitch on that part, but then when we got it, it just makes for just a much richer and broader discussion when they're talking it out rather than, you know, focusing on writing and making sure they're doing in-text citations and all that other stuff.
I just like, I think, again, before we went to VoiceThread, what was embedded in the LMS, which probably wasn't D2L at that point, was really clunky. And you couldn't use it on a phone or on a tablet, because if you tried, it cuts you off the amount of time, like in Flipgrid, I think 10 minutes. That's ample. That's what I set mine at. I just feel like it's more intuitive. Like it's very much for them, like FaceTime or something. I think it's a lot easier, I feel like. But you're right, maybe the one that you're using works. Regardless, we're supporting the same thing, right? We're supporting that whole, instead of having it be written, they're actually just talking to each other.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, but if Flipgrid gives me more variety and I just need to learn Flipgrid, because I've never used Flipgrid. I've just always resorted to the discussion board video option.
Georgina, I am happy to, it's very intuitive. Trust me, it's very easy. But again, you may revert back to what you like, what you've first been doing, but I'm happy to show you how to do it.
And I do know
Sounds good,
that
thank you.
You're welcome. I do know Learning Design has looked into the possibility of using Flipgrid in some of the courses for the online environment, the straight online environment. And so, you know, just have a conversation with them too, for your chair, I guess, as far as in regards to
Joanne.
No, it's a great discussion.
Yeah, I mean, you know, these are the discussions we have, you know, and so just making sure, you know, if you're changing certain things up, you just want to make sure you double check with Learning Design on that. So anybody else have any? Thanks for sharing, Joanne. All right, do you want to finish sharing what you were?
Sure. I just want, I will go quite quickly. I've been doing this for a while, and I asked the students I've sort of preloaded a Padlet with some, in this particular case, with some examples of CPR techniques that are incorrect. And so rather than just having the students say what's wrong with it, I'd asked them to explain to make the correction and then explain why this particular revision was needed. So you might see here, and as a matter of fact, I noticed that Luke, we share a student together. Marcella, you and I both have Luke as a student, he's a great student. So in each of these cases, there was something amiss, and I asked the students in real time. That's why I was trying to answer the synchronous question. So each student would go to their assigned board, if you will, look at the pictorial and then sort of correct the technique there. But we were able to talk about it in real time, which was pretty cool. And then some students were able to notice one of the examples, there's a pillow underneath the head right here of this person who's experiencing some distress. And so somebody pointed that out, etc. So it's nothing profound. It's just that the beauty of it was used in a synchronous environment. Each student was then participating and then sort of critiquing each other. And I was able to do that because this particular group was very small. So you can't do that when you've got 28 students packed into a class, but for a smaller group, it worked. That's all.
Thanks for sharing. This is great. We love Padlet. And it's a great tool. It's a great tool to be able to use in both a synchronous Zoom session, or to be able to use in your face-to-face classroom as well, especially if you have your students bring some sort of device. What other ideas do you all have? Because that's a great active learning strategy. So what other active learning strategies do you all have or have done, whether it's in your Zoom synchronous session or whether it's in the online asynchronous session? What other kind of active learning strategies have you all used?
Greg, I'd like to say so. When Chuan was showing the Padlet and they were talking about videos, with the Padlets, the students can do videos very easily too. They can record themselves and have like, the string of videos there. So I have done that and that has been very useful. And also to respond to your question, what other strategies? Usually when I set them up to go to the breakout rooms, there is always a Padlet that they had to write. So I monitor continuously, even I am not in the breakout room for a group and I am with another group, I can see who is producing and who is not. And at the very first Padlet we did, they didn't get it, what I was doing, but I told them, listen, I walk into the breakout room and you guys were talking nonsense about something else, okay? Just very straightforward. You were talking verduritas, like we said in Spanish, vegetables. You were talking nothing, something like, but I could see, and I didn't need to enter into your breakout room. I could see that you were not producing anything in your Padlet. So from that day on, it was good medicine that, pep talk I had with them. They always, as soon as they get in the breakout room, they know they had to start showing their work. So that it's sort of a little bit of pedagogical tool mixed with the police,
Yeah.
Policing strategy.
That's great. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else have any strategies, whether it's in Zoom or just asynchronous online?
I've started with the whole IVR, like the whole, I feel like Greg and Candace keep hearing the same things from me, but in my class, they used to just do a presentation, a PowerPoint, and now I've moved to having them create something. So again, I know this might not be for everybody's class, but you might be able to find something that they can do virtually for your subject. Instead of them doing a presentation on pieces that they like or pieces they should feature, they're supposed to pretend like they're curators. I now have them virtually create a gallery. So that's been active, right? So they have to, they have to navigate, they have to make choices, they have to place pieces, they have to create museum labels. It's kind of cool. And then I always try to have them do something creatively. And it's always the ones that are like, oh, I'm so scared. I don't know anything about making anything, that are I'm like, wow, you just did that. I don't know. So I'm just trying to give you an example. I know that won't work for everybody, but there might be something out there in the virtual world that you could use.
A great way a lot of these tools are made now is they're really not that complicated for students. And they, just like Candace mentioned, a cool authentic assessment, there's a lot of different authentic assessments, that we can think of to get the students doing those student created types of things to showcase what they've learned, what you've taught them, what they've read about or watched or whatever in your class, for them to be able to pull that out. Any other ideas from y'all about active learning strategies? So we have about 15 minutes left. We want to go through just a couple more questions. What types of communication strategies did you use to, with your students to stay connected and informed? How did you start out maybe in the beginning, and then how has it maybe evolved as the semesters moved on?
The announcements to me are the best way of keeping them, focused, and you can send, okay, remember for this week we have X, Y, and Z, then don't forget to read these. And also when we were talking about how to add content, you don't need to modify the content of the course. You can use announcement sections to put your pictures, videos, links. And with that, is particularly for the online courses, it's like if they had you, inside the classroom with them. I've seen many, when doing online observations, I've seen many people that they put an intro video. And some others, they have a message with really nice, relevant pictures. And that's something that you don't need to redo every semester, because you can have your files organized, by module with the announcements. The announcement you put at the beginning, the announcement you put at the close, and you can have it either in a Word or a PowerPoint, and then you just upload them all at the beginning of the semester, and you set the timer, release Sunday evening or release Monday morning, and that will help to maximize your time. Because instead of doing it every time you can improve it. You can improve what you have.
That's
I
a
want to
great
say
strategy.
too that like the pulse, like the announcements, I don't know if you have your students, you're telling your students to make sure they get that pulse app, the St. Leo Pulse app. Like it feeds, like it'll go right to their phone, which I think is super helpful because they've got their phone on them. So it'll just like all those announcements immediately come through. I also know as a student, so I'm actually taking a studio class this semester myself. So like when she posts an announcement, like it comes through. So I love that, a reminder.
Yeah, those are great. One of the things I do on day one is I actually go to I tell them, go to your student account and go to notifications. And I have them all pull theirs up and I say, look, let's go down the row and let's look at the different notifications that you can receive. And, if they're getting a grade or they're getting feedback or they get a news announcement or something, I'm like, let's check these boxes so you're getting notifications in your email. Now, if you want to have it as a text message, or even better, like you said, Pam, having the Pulse app, and then those notifications come in, because sometimes, the students go over a week where they haven't even logged into your course. But if they're getting those notifications, I know my whole life revolves around pinging on my phone, calendar reminders and everything else pinging me and saying, hey, you got to do this, or my to-do. I use Microsoft To-Do to keep my track of my to-dos. So, but I love the announcements as well. Like this semester, I have a Word document, and then every week I have announcements. I actually copy and paste those announcements into this Word document. So then next semester, all I have to do is just copy and paste it. I may have to change the link, because I link out to like specific content items or specific assignments that are due, and I put them right on the announcements. And I tell the students right from the get-go, you want to go here because I'm telling you, maybe I give them more information than they should have, but I try to give them as much as I can in the announcements section. So any other strategies those are great, Marcel and Pam. Any other strategies y'all use for communicating? All right. So what surprised you this semester while teaching in this new delivery? Like, what are some things that you went, wow, I didn't realize that would happen, or my students reacted this way, or maybe I was overly prepared or underprepared or didn't communicate as best as I thought I was going to with the students. So what are some of those things that surprised you?
It surprised me that my students, we were set up for Monday in the classroom, Wednesday Zoom, Friday asynchronous. Both classes wanted to go back to being face-to-face on Wednesday. They did not want to be in Zoom.
Okay.
So both my freshmen, that really surprised me, and my upperclassmen. And my upperclassmen actually hit me up with it one day in class about week 4. They said, hey, Dr. Casper, can we have a conversation about the Wednesday Zoom classes? And so we did, and that caused me to poll my freshmen. When I polled my freshmen, they wanted to go back too. So everybody was happy with Friday asynchronous, but everybody for the most part, wanted to go back to Wednesday Zoom. The only ones who didn't were the ones who needed Zoom on Wednesday because of some situation that they couldn't get to campus for.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
I was going to say, I was just surprised at, and I'm still surprised. I do Tuesday in the classroom. I do Thursday synchronous on Zoom. And I'm actually shocked at how much they are engaged on Thursday. You know, having done some of this in a different way during COVID, I didn't have real high expectations, but they are very participatory. I had asked you, Greg, earlier, you know, what to do about the breakout rooms, and someone has already spoken to this, you know, being able to kind of see what everyone's doing, but you're only in one breakout room. So I've been using Google Classroom. I'll put like an Excel spreadsheet together. So while I'm in one breakout room, I can still see if that Google Classroom, each of them might have a column, their breakout rooms, I can see it being populated. So I know they're doing something. But everybody, and again, I don't know if that's because of, I offer, you know, I give attendance points for those days. And also I was wondering if it mattered, although someone just spoke about the different levels, because I mean, I'm SLU 125, all of my students are pretty much freshmen. I mean, there are a couple others sprinkled in there. So I have wondered how the hybrid is going for the upperclassmen. And then the other item that Joanne and I have spoken about is we do feel that some students, and again, this is a 100 level course, but we do feel that some students may not fit very well with the hybrid model. Not many, but there seem to be a few. And so it's kind of helped us think about and identifying, well, who might be the best person. Because again, usually these are, you know, first semester, second semester of college, and they're still acclimating. And so it feels like maybe it's going to take, you know, a unique person to excel. I think that all of them can do it, but I have noticed a difference in having to do more follow-up with maybe 5 or 6 in the class. And yeah, they're kind of, you know, I've had other one-on-one conversations where I think they're just struggling in general. And so I actually did speak with Tyler Sanders about it and student success, because there's some Dare to Roar students that I have. And I did say, maybe we need to have a conversation about those students maybe not the best for a hybrid model, their first or second semester in college, because we're already kind of watching and they're kind of in this, you know, temporary space where we're trying to give them the tools. And I don't know if a hybrid model is the best for that person. So those are some takeaways that I have definitely wasn't expecting.
Oh, thanks for sharing. That's great. You know, that's the kind of feedback we do want from the faculty. Like, we're putting together a survey now for those faculty that have done hybrid so far. And there's one that's going to go out to our students so we can get feedback from our students in regards to how the hybrid went as well. And so being able to find that out so we can kind of fine tune this, because I think one of the struggles in the beginning was, I don't know if the students even knew what they were getting themselves into. They just kind of got put into a hybrid class and we're like, well, I don't even know, you know, what day is it going to be? Where is it going to be? You know, like exactly what that was. And so I think as we continue to perfect the model, I guess, and then the expectations for students and the students know what to expect, I think that'll happen. But
yeah, and to back off of that, Greg, it has come to that point where, like I said, we have a student success coach that actually teaches one section of SLU 125. His name is Justin Carter. And he's not teaching a hybrid section, but I have been talking to him and I asked him, now the student success coaches, what did they know about the hybrid before they were enrolling these, you know, soon to be freshmen or second semester? And he said, yeah, we didn't really understand it. And he even said to me, so you're telling me some of them, they still meet in the classroom and synchronously. I think there was some confusion, and I said, I meet synchronously. And I said, unless there's a situation where I can't. And I said, but maybe there are hybrid sections that are doing some of it asynchronous. And he's like, well, yeah, we were under the impression that it meant, it's a little bit more at their own pace. And I said, well, not for my section. That is for sure. So I think that I've talked to Holly Adkins about it, and we think it might be a good idea to talk with student success overall. So that in the future, and again, this is just for 100 level courses. I'm not speaking to everyone, but for us, again, making sure that everybody's on the same page, because they might be able to identify, who might fit better, or who might, not. And maybe when they're a sophomore, they could handle a hybrid class, but maybe not their first semester. So it's been great.
All right. Thanks for sharing.
When we, the spring of 2020, when all this happened, when the pandemic started, and we had to come back to D2L and to the shells and to the hybrid systems, what I did was to get the students together the day before we came back to class. So I teach on Tuesday. So on Monday, I organized a social event, and it was in Zoom. So if they couldn't get there on time, or if they were having trouble, it wasn't that it didn't matter. It didn't matter from the point of view of getting late to a class. So I say, okay, let's get together, bring your coffee, your tea, and let's talk, and let's see how we are going to go from now on. And so it was a social informational session. And I organized games for them in Zoom, and I was sending them to the breakout rooms and doing all the things like in a very playful way that I will be doing later. So when we finished, I said, okay, how did you like this new social gathering, mode? And they were laughing, and they said, oh, it was cool, it was different. And I said, okay, get ready, because this is what we are doing for the rest of the semester. And then when we finished the semester, and I gave them, sort of a list of questions, because that semester we didn't have evaluation. So I said, guys, I need to know, give me your constructive feedback of what it worked and what it didn't. So what they said was that social gathering, they said something like, you are sneaky because you said it was a social gathering, but it was a social gathering, but that was not the main purpose. And I was laughing, and they said, yes, you were sneaky because you did it on purpose. And I said, well, I guess so. So that's something that, I had to admit. And they say, come on, Marcela, tell us the truth. You were very deliberate. And I said, yes, I was being very deliberate. I must confess now. But they say, do it. Keep doing it, because it was very good to us. And for those students who have never used Zoom, it was very helpful. So they say on the day we had to enter to the class, we knew what to do, and we felt comfortable, and we were not afraid, and we knew what it was going to look like and be like being in Zoom. So usually after that, every semester before classes start, I call for a social gathering. And I do like every Monday before class on the advising day, I spend the whole afternoon with each class in a social gathering. So, and that seems to kind of, loosen it up. So
that is cool.
Okay.
Not to necessarily jump right in to the content.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
because I know one of the things that our department we've really talked about is that classroom community, building that classroom community piece of it, and having those social pieces in there absolutely are extremely important. Well, I know we're right at 1 o'clock, but I wanted to see if anybody else wanted to. There was one more, if you have time, just like 1 or 2 sentences. What was if you were to give a faculty, if somebody said, I'm interested in hybrid, and they said, what would be your advice? What would be maybe one thing that you would just say, hey, my best advice is this. And so we'll just take a couple people and then we'll wrap it up.
I would say be very, very organized from the beginning. Make sure that you've got something like what Pam was saying, just to make very, very sure you've got all of your weeks or modules, however you were calling them. You've got everything organized. And then the other thing was to ask students to remain on camera the whole time. And I struggled with that a little bit. I had some students who just kept, putting up their stagnant picture. So I said, and I did make this clear, you're very welcome to use a virtual background, of course, but I want to see you the whole time to keep the students engaged. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks. Those are great, Joanne.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else have any?
I agree with Joanne, making sure that they have their camera on. And again, for me, the type of accountability I integrate in is, yes, giving them points for attendance. Again, this is a freshman level course, and that may not be something that would be done on higher levels, but that seems to work, making sure they understand what they need to do to receive those attendance points. And also not being afraid to, push them off if need be, because I have had students that are not paying attention and they become a distraction to me. And so I know how to do that real quick now. So don't be afraid to do that. Let them know that you're serious those first couple weeks.
And writing the Zoom etiquette and the expectations for Zoom behavior in the syllabus, I think that that's critical too, because they know, okay, this is a class, this is what you're expected to do. Do you like it? Good. You don't like it? Get it. Because unfortunately, one student can do a lot of damage to the environment of a class. So from day one, they had to know how to be civil and a good community member.
All right, great. Thanks. All right. Well, I guess if anybody else wants to stay on and chat, we can, but I know we're just 2 minutes over. So thank you everyone for their time. We really appreciate it. And if y'all have any other questions, we can stay on for a couple more minutes.
I would like to ask the panelists, we have a webinar planned next Wednesday for faculty who might be interested in developing a hybrid course. And we're looking for some models of course shells, course organizational structures that we could share with them. And so if you would be willing to either allow us to share your course organizational structure or come and spend 3 to 5 minutes just showing them how you set your course up, I'd be really grateful for that. You're welcome to reach out to me in an email and say, hey, I'm happy to do that, or I'm happy for you to use my course shell. But one of the things that faculty have expressed in their feedback is they really want to see how other people are doing it. They want to see what it might look like. So that would be really helpful.
And it's the same time and same day next week.
Yeah. And I just want to thank each of you for your phenomenal teaching. You're great example to all of us about innovating and trying new things and trying to meet the needs of the students, and for being willing to share that with your colleagues and with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Great.
Bye.
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, sure.
So I know, like I said, I'm going to speak to, I believe it's Angela Moore right now with the student success, but who is the best person to educate on the hybrid model? Because you have a lot of people that are obviously advisors and are enrolling students. So how can we do a better job of getting that information out to the people that are making those decisions of who's being enrolled?
As far as enrollment, I'm not sure. Candace, you might be able to speak to that. I think what we need to do is ultimately let the advisors know what this really is, like, because like we said last time, it was hard because I don't think everybody knew what hybrids was going to look like. And so even when you said, okay, well, you know what, we can put these students in there, but they didn't really know exactly the way it was going to get structured. So
I just made a note of it to talk with Mary about it next week when I meet with her. I'll see if maybe we can meet with the advisors to explain what it is, hybrid is and how best to advise their students.
Okay.
I definitely think the how to advise their students is important too, because them understanding what it is one thing, but them really thinking about the type of student they're putting in there. So I have the Dare to Roars too, and I have them in the second half of 110, which means they failed the first go around with 110. And those probably were not the best choice for putting them in there. So I think having advisors be able to look at the student and say something like, you have a 2.0 or a 2. I kind of think there might be a grade level we need to think about too. I also had them drop a student in my class specifically because he couldn't attend campus classes. And so they're like, well, you have an asynchronous and you have a Zoom. And then on Mondays it's face-to-face, but I open up Zoom anyway so that it records for them. He says, so, can I put him in your class? And I wish I had been thinking more clearly when he asked me. It was during dropout and all the craziness, and I wasn't, because I would have said, why don't you put him in an online class? Because that's basically what you're asking. Now, luckily, that student, thank goodness, is self-motivated, and he's been great. But that was really a recipe for disaster. And I kind of feel like something that the success coaches should not have been. That was a bad decision on somebody's part. So I kind of feel like they need to have more education on not only what hybrid is, but really thinking about those students and not just thinking about, I'm going to stick them somewhere. Because I'm sure there are a lot of students who went, oh, yeah, I only have to go to class once a week. And then, I'm on Zoom and then I'm asynchronous. And there are students that clearly is not a good plan, lower level or upper level. So I think a lot of this falls on the success coaches to make some good decisions too.
I think you're right though, because you said don't think so much about the course, because you're right. We all had different, we all kind of took liberties of, are we going to have synchronous? Are we not? What are we going to do? And so you really can't speak to that so much as they need to be focused on the individual. And I think it's interesting that you kind of threw out the GPA, because that's something that I've thought about. I would hate to have to restrict it that way, but and again, when you're talking about an incoming freshman, you don't know, but yeah, there needs to be something that differentiates that student that you think will successfully be able, to take on a hybrid, no matter if that's synchronous, asynchronous, because hybrid could mean different for an SLU 125 versus a 300 level English class or whatever, So I think you're right. They need to start thinking about the type of person that maybe that's not a good match.
Yeah, because these students need to be self-motivated. And if you have students that aren't self-motivated, they're not going to do the Friday asynchronous. And who knows what's going to happen on Zoom days, whether they're going to show up or not. So, freshmen are hard, like you said, but as we start moving forward, I think you can look at that student, especially if you're their success coach, and get to know them. I mean, I can do that with my upper level when I'm advising. They should be able to do it with the lower level when they're advising, to be able to make good decisions.
Great feedback.
The other question I had for you, totally different type of thing, is I have been able to access who's been engaging in my material when I use Nearpod, and I love that. Is there a way for us to get that kind of information from Zoom? So if I say I've posted something on Zoom, I want you to watch it. How do I know? Is there a report?
I don't think there is on anything that you would click, because the only way I would see, you could capture like annotations, you could capture chat feature, but as far as them watching anything, you would have to have a tool they're watching from in order to get them to, like there's a tool called Edpuzzle, and you could create interactive videos where they actually just watch the video and you could embed questions in it. and the students have to answer the questions as they go along through there. You can do the same thing in Microsoft Stream, is you can put a Microsoft form at the end and have them answer the questions once they're finished, because that's actually an idea of like an asynchronous type of activity where you just give them a video, but you make them do something afterward and give you the feedback. In order to get the feedback from it. But as far as Zoom goes, I don't think it really.
You can't monitor it from Zoom, but you can from D2L.
That's what I was going to say. Is I'd like that I can do that through D2L, but I don't know. It's like I want to know for sure if they've, if they say they can't come to the class, but they're going to watch it later or whatever. It would be nice to be able to know. So do you think I could embed that within D2L?
Well, the trick is they can't go to the Zoom link in D2L where all of them are housed. You have to embed it in a module.
Okay.
And then you can set it so that you can go in and see who has accessed it and who hasn't. So we can help you with that. But that way you'll know. Now, you won't know whether they watched it all the way through. So if that's really important to you, I tell my students that you've got to have 5 bullet points and submit those that say 5 things you learned from that video or 5 things you got out of it, and they can't be from the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I've done that before when I felt like
that's good.
But it also motivates them to show up because they don't want to do the bullet points later on.
I know. You're right. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, I did an activity day on fitness, and a couple kids didn't show up, and they never told me they weren't. And I was like, okay, you know what? It's like, you guys in class are good. I said, but guess what? The ones that aren't, they're going to have this activity they're going to have to do. And it probably will take them longer to do the activity than it was for you guys to sit in class and participate together, actually answering some of these questions and coming up with your best benefits of exercise and physical activity or whatever. So, but there are some tools that you can use to monitor it, and then embed it directly into D2L and just ask them to do it from there.
All right, I'm going to jump off. Thank you so much for everything. And one thing I will say, if you guys need anyone to put maybe like a mini presentation together for student success, I could definitely help with that. And like I said, because Justin teaches, we've had a lot of conversations already, and he has expressed that, yes, he would love it if they, received a little bit more. So just if you ever want to do anything like that, put together maybe just a little 30-minute thing where we could talk to Angela about, hey, can we have 30 minutes with the student success coaches just to give them an overview, answer any questions or something like that. Just know that I'd be happy to be a part of that. But
thank you, Brandy, you can start working on that right now.
I kind of am anyway.
I can say right now, anyway, we'll be reaching out to you for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for everything. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Bye. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye.